Up next, Arne Slot fields questions on Alexander Isak as Liverpool prepare to face, yes, Newcastle United on the Monday Night Football. Involved in the other transfer saga of the window, their pursuit of Newcastle United striker Alexander Isak. The manager Arne Slot is happy with his squad, but admitted they'd be interested in bringing in a player who would improve them and wanted to join them. I wonder who that could be.
What I can tell you is not a lot. And if someone else is going to ask that question, it's going to be the same answer. Very, very happy about the squad we are having. So I've always said maybe having two per position is ideal, but I prefer less than more. But as always, if we think we can improve in a certain position and there's a player available that can really make us better, which you could see with Giovanni Leoni, it's then this club has always shown that they bring these players in, but only if everything is what we want. So the right transfer fee, the right player, the right position, and a player that wants to come to us.
A player that wants to come to us. Interesting, Mark. He's clearly not going to give too much away publicly. What's your reaction to what you heard from Arne Slot there?
No, I think I really like Arne Slot. I think the way he comes across in the media, the way he speaks, the way he fronts up and answers questions as well, respectfully. And he's prepared to have a little bit of a back and forth and a joke with our reporter Vinny O'Connor and those in the press room. I think shows the mark of the man and the type of person he is. He gets it, he understands what our job is about, and he understands that there are millions of Liverpool fans around the world that are desperate to know what's happening with Alexander Isak and whether or not there'll be a second bid. The first bid, 110 million plus add-ons, rejected by Newcastle. And their stance is quite clear on Alexander Isak. They don't want to sell a player who is crucial to their Premier League campaign and their Champions League season for less than what they feel is the value, and also without having a replacement in the building, signed up and ready to go, much as they would be interested in taking Alexander Isak. But Liverpool aren't stupid. They know that Newcastle are not going to sell the player unless they have a replacement. And the problem is there are very few replacements out there available at the right price that Eddie Howe would be comfortable with signing.
You mentioned Eddie Howe there. Another tumultuous week for Newcastle United, although some could say, Jacob Ramsey has arrived, so really good signing. And the signings that they have made, they are actually, if you take them in isolation, it's been quite a good window when you look at it like that, but it has been dominated, of course, by this Alexander Isak saga. We're going to be hearing from Eddie Howe tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, we've actually got two bites at the cherry with Eddie. He's doing his press conference at 9 a.m. in the morning. And of course, we have got a host broadcast interview, which is the interview we get exclusively one-on-one with the manager before a live Sky Sports game. They're live on the Monday Night Football, which I cannot wait for. So we've got two opportunities to speak to Eddie Howe. Now, ultimately, he's going to be asked the same questions that we've been asking for a number of weeks now. What's the latest with Alexander Isak? Have you had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him? Is there any movement with his position? Does he want to be included in the squad? Does he want to return to the fold for training? Is there any chance he may be on the bench on Monday night? Of course, Alexander Isak's position has been made quite clear through his representatives via the media that he doesn't want to play for Newcastle anymore. He wants to explore his options. He wants to potentially join Liverpool, and he has no desire to play for Newcastle United again. However, there is a 3-year contract remaining on his current deal, and the choice isn't really his, it's Newcastle United's, and they'll decide where he goes moving forward. And if you want to ask me the question, which I've been asked this week, last week, the week before, I still think he remains a Newcastle United player.
But also, hypothetically, if Newcastle did sign Johan Wissa, that's not enough if they sold Alexander Isak. They've got the Champions League.
Johan Wissa is the replacement for Callum Wilson. He is a striker, someone that would probably play a huge number of games. There is that interest in the player. Obviously, when you've got Alexander Isak, the chances of Johan Wissa starting as a guaranteed starter is not going to be high. However, you look at the partnerships that Wissa formed with Brian Mbeumo and various other players at Brentford. He was an exceptionally important player to a front three. And Wissa's quality is he can play in multiple positions. And he brings so much. And that's why Eddie Howe wants to sign him. This is not just a player that oh yeah, he'll do. No, he's a player they've liked for some time, they've been tracking for some time. They've obviously had a couple of offers rejected by Brentford over the course of this summer. This is a player they have a desire to sell, but he is not the Alexander Isak replacement. He is someone that could go in and be a part of that strike force for Newcastle.
Let's see how it all unfolds.
Oh, we've got to race through a lot of this, but let's start from a Liverpool perspective. I find it very difficult to know what he's going to say about this.
Yeah, ultimately, you know, the manager, particularly someone as clever and as intelligent as Arne Slot, is not going to start talking about a player that's not his player. But we have to ask the questions. And the fact that he's got that sort of hubris side to his character, he knows and understands what we do here at Sky Sports News. Transfers is big business, and we talk about it throughout the course of the summer. And there are so many fans that are desperate to know what happens with this man. Is he going to be at Newcastle or Liverpool on September the 2nd? So therefore, you know, he bats it away as you'd expect. I think the key thing that he said in all of the communications over the last week to 10 days is that Liverpool, yes, are happy with the squad they have, but they're in the market for an attacker. Not a striker, an attacker. Now, Liverpool would like to sign a player that can play as a 9, potentially as a 10, as a wide forward. So they're looking for someone that can play multiple positions, not necessarily someone that is just purely an out-and-out number 9, like Alexander Isak is. Newcastle's position is the same. Not for sale, and that was very clear in the statement that was released the other night. The conditions of a sale have not been met. The two conditions being, 1, A, pay the money we want, 150 million, and 2, significantly, we don't have a replacement in the building. That was always the proviso. We potentially would allow you to go if the money is right and we have a replacement. Those replacements, Liam Delac at Chelsea, Benjamin Šeško at Manchester United. We know that there was other targets as well that they've not been able to get over the line. Ekitike at Liverpool. So therefore, the potential of this man leaving diminishes day by day, and right now it looks very unlikely he leaves Newcastle United.
Are Liverpool going to match what Newcastle want for Alexander Isak in this window?
I cannot see Liverpool spending £150 million on a player. You know, Liverpool are a very, very rich club. They're very, very well run. But in this day and age, I'd find it hard to think any Premier League club would spend £150 million on a player, no matter how good that player is. I think Isak has got a problem now because time is running out. He obviously wants this move to Liverpool, but it's not going to happen unless Newcastle find a replacement, at least one replacement, and unless Liverpool come back in and make a higher offer. I'm very interested to see what happens next Tuesday. Now, the reason I say that is because on Monday, the two sides are playing each other. So if you're a conspiracy theorist, maybe you're thinking the two sides are waiting for this game to be out of the way, and then Liverpool will re-engage with Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't write it, could you? As this transfer window saga goes on, that they're playing each other. So that's going to be interesting. That's the Monday night football at Newcastle against Liverpool. Now, one of the Liverpool signings, they've had a fantastic summer in terms of incomings, Andy. Hugo Ekitike has made a brilliant start to his Liverpool career. Like we say, like 150 million is a lot of money for Isak. But do you think they do need another number 9? But should they be spending 150 million on another number 9 when they've got Ekitike?
Well, they've lost quite a few forward players. So I think to add Isak to it makes sense. I think it's clear that Isak and Ekitike could play together. And funnily enough, you see him playing as on solo really for Newcastle, but he plays in a 2 with Gyökeres for Sweden. And I think that shows how good it shows how good both of them are, that they can switch from a 1 to a 2 when you don't have a lot of front 2s in world football these days. So it shows both of their adaptabilities. Look, Newcastle aren't they can't be forced to give him away, and they shouldn't be forced to give him away. Contractually, they're in a strong position, and ultimately, like players who score 23 Premier League goals for, we have to say, below elite teams, because Newcastle haven't proven themselves to be a Premier League challenger yet, they don't grow on trees. They need to ask for a lot of money for him, because the fact is, when they replace him, if they replace him, they would be going for someone like an Ekitike. In fact, I wonder, obviously Liverpool are very pleased with Ekitike, but they've kind of made the move more difficult by going for Ekitike in the first place, who obviously Newcastle were very, very keen on and have held an interest in for a very long time. But that's the sort of player that Newcastle would be going for to replace Ekitike, the sort of player that Isak was when he arrived. A Benjamin Sesko, really. Yeah. Someone who you know is a very good player with a very high ceiling, but is not quite there yet. But once that player is there, like Alexander Isak is, what are they meant to do? Give him away because he's in a mood? I mean, they can't.
Yeah, that's very true. It felt like, Garvey, that in the Newcastle statement they left the door open for reconciliation, but it felt like Alexander Isak slammed that door straight shut. So is there any path to reconciliation here, do you think?
Oh, definitely. I think, if Newcastle don't sign a replacement, if Liverpool don't increase their offer, he's going to have to come back with his tail between his legs. And I think Eddie Howe has left the door open to that happening. Eddie Howe in his public statements hasn't sort of gone overboard in criticising Alexander Isak. And at the end of the day, he's got a contract with Newcastle. He's got 3 years left on his contract. If the transfer window closes, he hasn't got his dream move to Liverpool. What's he going to do? Is he going to stay on strike indefinitely? No, he's not. We're probably going to get another social media statement. We'll probably get an interview with the club media where he comes out and maybe we'll have a few tears and he'll beg for he'll beg for forgiveness. He'll say he loves Newcastle. He's
he feels
a
at home
Geordie.
here.
He's been misunderstood. He was badly advised.
Oh, this is going on Hollywood.
He'll change agents.
Yeah.
I can see him like signing a new contract because this all started with a disagreement about the fact that he thought he was promised a new contract and he didn't get that new contract. So who knows? If the window closes, we've seen stranger things happen in the transfer market.
I mean, we talk about the Newcastle fans. They've made it very clear on their opinions on what they think. But what happens if Alexander Isak is welcomed back in and he accepts that he's welcomed back in and then he starts playing and scoring goals for Newcastle? Then what? They're just not going to celebrate?
Well, they are, aren't they? But look, the fact is, football's full of cordial relationships, marriages of convenience. Like Cristiano Ronaldo found it immensely frustrating that he spent 9 years at Real Madrid where he scored more than a goal a game and he never felt like he got that unconditional love. But I don't think that'll really matter.
Yeah.
If it's working for them in Premier League and Champions League, they've got a huge season ahead of them. It's funny, if you take out the Isak bit of the summer, which is obviously very hard to do, Newcastle have had a decent transfer window. You can look at the players that haven't come and it's easy to spin it as disaster. It's not. I think they've actually built the squad quite well. What they've needed to do ever since Mike Ashley